What does an author feel like when a ban on his book is lifted? Well, who better to tell us that than the man who's been at the center of controversy over the last few weeks, but today has reason, perhaps if not to feel vindicated, but certainly to feel thrilled, as he told us when he was on a live web chat with IBNlive.com just a short while ago. Mr. Jaswant Singh, pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
It seems to have turned out to be a rather auspicious day. That
yes,
you've been in our office at the very time when the Gujarat High Court has overturned the ban. Was this something completely unexpected? How are you feeling?
Of course. Well, that judgment would come on a Friday, and latter part of the day again. I really didn't think that would happen. That perhaps it would overspill into next week. But of course, I feel I'm thrilled.
This was a petition which was taken out by an individual. This
That's
wasn't.
Right.
You've
That's
gone
right.
to the Supreme Court, but
That's
this was
right.
an individual. Do you believe, in a sense, what the courts have done is really re-emphasize the importance of freedom of speech in a democracy?
Without doubt. But there's an inherent, implicit message in what the court has done. That all those who practice democracy in our country really ought to attend to the question, why did the court have to intervene at all? After all, it's an attempt at interpreting our own history, India's history. And so it shouldn't be necessary to go to a court and assert your right to speak your mind.
It was interesting because in the web chat you were telling us that you hadn't written a book on pornography. It wasn't as if this was a book this was a book of your reading of a crucial part of our history.
Yes, differ with it. Write another book. Or write in to say that I don't agree with what your conclusions are, fine. I have no difficulty with that. But ban it and burn it, Rajdeep. Burn books.
And this happened in Gujarat, where the BJP ruled state. The assumption and the reason given for the banning of the book was that it was seen as a book critical of Sardar Patel. That was the reason given for banning of the book in Gujarat, and the Congress party there supported the BJP in the banning of the book. So, what does this say about both the political parties and the fact that this entire Patel connection, which emerges every time in Gujarat?
Two things. Firstly, it's tragic. Because the reference to late Sardar Patel are 6 or 7. None of them is derogatory to the late Sardar. Secondly, that both the Congress and the BJP ought to be doing this for votes. Then you really ask the question that in a weighing scale, you put votes on one pan and you put values in the other pan, and votes are always heavier than values, then that is a question that we ought to ask ourselves as Indians across the length and breadth.
But do you believe that the average person in Gujarat would want to read this book and have a greater understanding of Sardar Patel?
So.
Because in the past in Gujarat, books, not just books, but films too, have been banned and have been seen to be critical of certain conventional wisdom. We saw it with the movie, for example, Parzania, which was about the Gujarat riots. That film was banned. Are we unwilling to confront certain ugly truths of our history?
We must be ready to confront a fact, a truth, interpretation of truth, however disagreeable. In this period that Gujarat banned, I started getting information from Rajasthan that from towns like Udaipur, my book vanishes. The moment it arrives in a shop, it goes. What is happening is that visitors to Nathdwara, earlier it is liquor that would be smuggled into Gujarat. Now books were being smuggled into Gujarat. And checkposts on Gujarat would open boxes and say, I hope you're not carrying a book. I found it really an abomination.
So are you saying, therefore, that the citizens of this country must have the right to decide whether they want to read a book or not? And on Sardar Patel specifically, that this, we've seen it in Maharashtra, for example, books on Ambedkar, which have had any critical references to Ambedkar have not been allowed. Books on Shivaji, if you remember, James Lane book was banned.
True.
So is Patel, Shivaji, Ambedkar, Gandhi, Nehru, holy cows, who we cannot discuss in public life?
We must discuss. We must discuss
their positives and their negatives.
Absolutely, and we must have the ability and the dimension of personality to dissent if necessary. Like Atalji had said when a Shivaji book was banned, and he'd gone to a meeting in Mumbai, with Shiva Sena and said, the answer is to write another book.
But sir, this is not it's not just books on historical figures. If you remember Salman Rushdie's book,
Yes.
Satanic Verses, led to protests. Communities believed it was injurious to a community. Do you believe all these debates must be settled by simply writing another book? As long as the book, as you said, is not pornographical and doesn't violate certain basic laws of the land, the book must have its own momentum and go out in society.
Absolutely, it's a discussion. Let us have the ability to dissent, to discuss in a civilized manner. After all, we are a land traditionally of Shastras. The great Shastras between Adi Shankar and Mandan Mishra, which lasted for almost 15 days. If the land of Shastras gives up Shastrarth, what is dissent, disagreement?
In this specific instance, of course, it was the Narendra Modi government, which was the government in charge in Gujarat. It was the government of a party that you belonged to not too long ago. Did that surprise you that Narendra Modi would do such a thing, or was that expected in a sense of the Gujarat government?
No, I was disappointed.